Hello everyone, it's Rachel. Welcome to a very special blog hop today with Unity Stamp Company and Operation Right Home. They have gotten together to create this gorgeous set of stamps called Ragged Old Flag. I'm showing you here so that you can get an idea of how large they are, especially this American flag. They're beautiful stamps. So today I'm going to be using the star and also the heart. So I'm starting by making my background. I am using Distress ink in tea dye, and I'm going to put the ink on the star, and then I will mist with water from maybe 6 inches away. I gave it 2 sprays, and now I will get 2 impressions on my watercolor paper, just like this. And then I pick up any excess water with a paper towel. And I will repeat the steps of doing this. I ink my stamp, I give it a quick mist with some water, and then I stamp it 2 or 3 times onto the watercolor paper. And I will do this until my paper is completely filled with this one particular image. And each time I'm also picking up the excess water that's left behind. And now I'm on the very end, filling in the nooks and crannies. Make sure you let some of the stamps go off the edge so it gives it more of a continuous look to your background pattern. Now that that's done, I'm giving a spray over the entire paper. And tappa that paper to get the water moving. And then I am picking up the water again with the paper towel. So you can see that it really lightens the color of the ink, but you still see the star pattern that's left behind. I wanted it a little lighter so that you'd be able to see the rest of the elements that I'm putting on the card. So I made sure it was completely dry. I heated it with my heat gun. And now I'm gonna distress the edges with my Tim Holtz tonic tool. This tool has little blades in between each of those slots there that breaks apart the paper. You can also easily use a piece of sandpaper to get the same effect. And now that all of my edges are distressed, I'm going through with my tea dye ink and a mini blending tool, and I'm going to ink around all of the edges. And again, you see that I'm using the same ink color as I did for the star stamping along the background. And now that my background is finished, I'm ready to move on to the heart. I'm going to be coloring it with Distress markers with Salty Ocean and Festive Berries. I'm coloring the marker directly onto the stamp. You'll see I'm using the Salty Ocean bright blue color on the stars, and I'm also filling in the spaces in between the solid stripes. So those little dots right there will get colored with the Salty Ocean. And you don't have to worry that the marker on your stamp will dry. I'm sure it's almost completely dry by the time I'm done coloring it, but we're going to be spraying it with some water, so all of that ink from the marker will be reactivated with the water. So then I went through and I colored the solid stripes with the Festive Berries red Distress marker. And now I'm giving it a good mist. I want to get it pretty wet. I think I sprayed it 3 or 4 times. And now that the water has activated the pigment in the markers, I'm stamping it onto my completely dry background watercolor paper. Now for the sentiment, I'm using this sentiment stamp set from Unity Stamp Company. I believe it was the February sentiment kit. I have lined up the stamp that says "Thinking of You Always," and I'm inking it up with some Ranger Archival black ink. I've lined up my stamp along the little grid marks on my acrylic block so that I can be sure that it is as straight as I can possibly get it. And I'm putting that right under the bottom tip of the heart. And since it is being stamped onto watercolor paper, I want to make sure that I press down a little harder than maybe I usually would, and I like to rock my stamp back and forth to make sure that it gets into some of the thicker little spots that watercolor paper has. And I'm also using this great flourish stamp to line up along the bottom of the Thinking of You Always. I did do a test stamp beforehand so that I got the right idea of how far I needed to put that stamp up to line it up just perfectly. Since they are rubber and you can't see through them like clear stamps, it's always a good idea to do some test runs so you get a feel of how it's going to look. And I think that turned out great. And it lined up so perfectly with the sentiment. Now I'm going to put my watercolor paper onto a card base. I found this great collection from Die Cuts with a View. It's one of their new premium 5-packs of paper. I'm using this cool black pinstripe. I cut it down to a folded card of 5.5 by 4.25, and I used some very strong adhesive to tape it onto that card. And you can see I just added some navy pearls to the back of that. And thanks for watching. Make sure you check out the Unity Stamp Company blog for details on the hop and prizes and a lot more inspiration. Bye.